stayed in and watched the new episode of Love and Death, the Candy story that HBO Max is doing. Recommend watching that if you haven't started it already, for all my true crime lovers out there. But without further ado, I thought, since it's Mother's Day, why not read about America's worst mother ever, Diane Downs. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And if you have your own spooky, scary, unsettling story that you would like to share for me to read in a future video, email this email, which is also available down below, as well as my social medias if you're interested in following me on those. Today's article is brought to you by Anecdotes with a Z.com. The Disturbing Case of Diane Downs. This is a super popular case, so you've probably heard of it already. If not, welcome. You're in for a fucked up ride. 10 out of 10 recommend reading Small Sacrifices by Anne Rule. Small Sacrifices by Anne Rule. If you're intrigued by Diane Downs' case, nobody wants to imagine that a mother can harm her own child. Parents are supposed to protect and care for their children and raise them with unconditional love. From the moment you bring a bundle of joy into the world, you don't stop caring for them. Parents are always worried that something might happen to their precious child. That's why it always comes as a shock when you hear horror stories about a mother murdering her own child. A mother is supposed to have natural compassion, and not loving her child goes against nature in so many ways. It makes no sense from biological, evolutional, and psychological standpoints. So the big question is, what kind of psychotic mother is capable of committing such heinous crimes against her own babies? This is the story of Diane Downs. Diane Downs. Mommy Dearest. In 1984, Elizabeth Downs was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted for the shooting and attempted murder of her 3 young children. One of them died after what she did. At the time this all took place, Downs told police that some guy attempted to carjack them and took out a gun. Of course, that was quickly proven to be a lie. Downs managed to escape from prison in 1987, and she was on the run for a brief time before getting recaptured. Yes, she's fucking crazy, and she deserves to rot and die in there. To whoever wrote this article, you're preaching to the choir. The next part is called Growing Up. Elizabeth Diane Fredrickson was welcomed into the world on August 7th, 1995, in Phoenix, Arizona, to her religious parents, Wes and Willadine Fredrickson. I don't know if anybody else does this when they read somebody's birthday, or when they get it. I'm just immediately like, this is your sign, just because it's fun, for shits and giggles. She claims her father sexually assaulted her as a child, but that was never confirmed. Given her track record of lying, most people don't. Do not, I repeat, do not believe her story. She attended Moon Valley High School in Phoenix, and that's where she met her high school sweetheart and future husband, Stephen Downs. She then attended Pacific Coast Baptist Bible College in Orange, California, but she got expelled for promiscuity and moved back to her parents' home. On November 13th, 1973, she walked down the aisle with Steve Downs. They split up in 1980, but not before she had his babies, by all accounts, from neighbors, acquaintances, and even friends and family. Diane Downs was an unfit mother who put everything before her children. They noted that she was especially cruel to her daughter Cheryl. Shortly before her death, Cheryl reported and told people that she was scared of her mother. Downs was creepily addicted to being pregnant, but we'll get into that later. Her rebellious stage never ended. As we mentioned, Diane grew up in a religious household but became a rebellious child when she was about 14. She even dropped Elizabeth from her name and decided the conservative life wasn't for her. She dated Steve Downs despite her parents' disapproval. After they eloped, Diane's extramarital affairs caused a strain on their marriage, so she left Steve and went back to her parents. But she was already pregnant by that point and gave birth to her first child, Christy Ann, in 1974. More babies. They welcomed their second daughter, Cheryl Lynn, in 1976. Despite Steve's vasectomy, Diane ended up pregnant once again, but she had an abortion. She and Steve started working at a mobile manufacturing company, and Downs was fooling around with some of her coworkers. Mama's a hoe, okay? As a result, Diane got pregnant yet again. She gave birth to Stephen Daniel Danny Downs in December 1979. Steve was well aware that he wasn't the father, but he accepted the child anyway. By 1980, Steve and Diane had split up. After the divorce, she had countless affairs while trying to reconcile with Steve. In order to bring in money, Diane decided to become a surrogate mother, which is so disturbing in retrospect. As it turned out, Diane didn't qualify after failing two psychiatric exams. The test reports indicated that she was intelligent, but also psychotic, like she's a nut. In 1981, Diane started working as a postal carrier for the United States Post Office. During that time, the children stayed with their parents, Steve and Danny's biological father, in rotation. Neighbors reported that Diane didn't care for her children properly when they stayed with her. Despite failing 2 psychiatric exams that showed signs of being a psychopath, Diane got an offer to be a surrogate toward the end of that year. She gave birth to a baby through surrogacy on May 8th, 1982. Soon enough, she wanted to make her passion a hobby and launch a whole surrogacy clinic. Thank the Lord, he is real. That venture failed, and during that time, Downs began a whirlwind affair with a married man named Robert Knickerbocker. The more she nagged him to leave his wife, the more suffocated Nick felt, and he ended their relationship. Diane moved to Oregon, but instead of getting over Nick, she became obsessed with him. On the eerie night of May 19th, 1983, Diane arrived in the emergency room in Springfield, and her children, Christy, who was 8, Cheryl, 7, and Danny, 3, only 3 years old, they're all super young guys, were all covered in blood in the backseat. They had been shot point blank. Sadly, the doctors declared Cheryl, who was 7, dead at the scene, and the other 2 children were suffering from life-threatening injuries. Investigators were suspicious of hospital for the first time. As soon as Christy saw her mother, the little girl looked terrified, and her heart rate jumped dramatically. They also realized that Diane called Nick her married ex-lover. As soon as they got to the hospital, she seemed to be enjoying the attention. When she asked what happened that night, Downs told a story that was far-fetched, to say the least. She explained that she was flanked by a man on the side of the dirt road while her children were sleeping in the car. She described a shaggy-haired man who demanded her car. She refused. He shot the children. During the struggle, this man also shot her in the arm, but conveniently, emphasis, her injuries weren't serious at all, while her children were fighting for their lives in the hospital. Downs started giving a bunch of media interviews, telling weird stories and maintaining her innocence. Unfortunately for Diane, her story didn't add up. It was filled with unnecessary details that brought down the legitimacy, I couldn't say that word for a second, of her statements, and is common when people are lying. She described that she was taking the kids to go sightseeing in the dark while they were sleeping. This made no sense, and the police were on to her. There were so many red flags. When they got a hold of her journal, they discovered that she had been having an affair with a married man. Her lover did not want kids, which caused Diane to see them as a burden. Little Christy suffered a stroke that impaired her ability to speak, but when she woke up, she managed to tell the police what she remembered, and spoiler alert, it didn't involve a shaggy-haired man. Let's get one thing straight. Although uncommon, it's not impossible that a random dude would have shot her kids with absolutely no motive or no gain, because people are crazy. It was Diane's disturbing behavior that raised red flags for the police. First of all, it was clear Diane loved the attention. Most people can't put a sentence together after going through something so heartbreaking, let alone give interviews. She didn't seem sad or even shed a tear for her poor babies. Doctors were shocked at her demeanor following the incident. As you could imagine, doctors were not looking forward to telling Diane that Christy had a stroke and that Danny was going to be partially paralyzed for the rest of his life. But what they were dreading the most was breaking the news about Cheryl's death. Stunningly, Diane didn't seem bothered by this horrific news. The doctors explained that they were expecting waterworks. Sure, people react to trauma in different ways, but the hospital noted that there was something really unsettling about Diane's reaction. The most disturbing of it all is a video you can find on YouTube, and if you want, I will link it in the description down below. Just a few days after the incident, Diane is sitting in a car acting out what had happened to the police. Most people would be bawling their eyes out while reenacting the most terrible night of their life, but however, Diane didn't act like a mother who had just lost a child. In fact, she was joking and laughing with police officers. The strange part is that she didn't even pretend to care. Usually psychopaths at least mimic real emotions, and that's how they become so manipulative. Evidently, the evidence didn't match Diane's story. There was no blood on the driver's side of the car, nor was there any gunpowder residue on the driver's panel. Nick reported to the police that Diane was stalking him and seemed like she would go as far to kill his wife if it meant she could have him to herself. Nick went on to say that he was relieved when Diane moved to a different state and he was able to work things out with his wife. Downs also didn't tell the police that she had a .22 caliber handgun, but her husband, or ex-husband, and ex-lover confirmed that she did, in fact, own a gun. Investigators eventually found out that she bought a handgun in Arizona months after the shooting, she was charged with murder and 2 counts of attempted murder and criminal assault. And the trial begins. The prosecutors explained that Diane wanted to get rid of her children so she could continue her affair with Nick, who didn't want kids. Although it sounds absurd, this was an easy one for prosecution. There was just so much evidence against her. Oh, and by the way, Diane was 8 months pregnant during her trial. Once Christy rediscovered her ability to speak, she took the stand and told the terrifying story of how her mother shot all 3 of them and then shot herself in the arm. Christy was just 8 when they were shot and 9 during the trial. The poor girl went through so much before she was even 10 years old. Guilty on all charges, it didn't take much to convince a jury. For a psychopath, Diane Downs was horrible at faking emotions and pretending to care. It was like she was asking the jury to convict her. Of course, Diane was found guilty on all of the charges. Psychiatrists diagnosed her with narcissistic, histrionic, and antisocial personality disorder, but an insanity defense wouldn't get her out of this one. She was sentenced to life plus 50 years in prison. The judge made it clear that she hoped Diane Downs will never regain her freedom and see the light of day. Where are Diane Downs' kids today? The 2 surviving children were taken by Fred Yuki, the prosecutor of the case. Literally an angel on this earth. He and his wife, Joanne, officially adopted them in 1984. As we mentioned, Diane was pregnant with her 4th child in court. She had her baby in jail a month after the trial ended. She named her daughter Amy. 10 days before her sentencing, the baby was seized by the state, and soon after, she was adopted by a loving family and was renamed Rebecca Becky Babcock. She grew up not knowing who her birth mother was, but she was always curious. Now let's get into this episode of Prison Break, Diane Downs edition. Even while she was locked up, Diane couldn't stay out of trouble. On July 11th, 1987, the convicted child killer escaped the Women's Correctional Center, and it didn't take long for the police to recapture her. For this, she was sentenced to 5 whole additional years in prison for the jailbreak, to be served simultaneously with her concurrent sentences. That sounds like a small punishment for a big crime. She would be eligible for parole in 25 years, which is a scary thought. After 25 years, it was time for the parole consideration for Diane. Diane Downs is considered a dangerous offender, and under this state's law, that means she will be eligible for parole hearings every 2 years until she is released or dies behind bars. In her first application, the murderous mother reaffirmed her innocence. Over the years, she explained, "I've told you and the rest of the world that a man shot me and my children. I've never changed my story." She probably should have changed her story because clearly this one was not working. Diane's first hearing was December 2008. Lane County District Attorney Douglas, I don't know how to say his last name, I'm gonna attempt it though anyway, Harsel Road. Actually, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. Wrote to the parole board. Downs continues to fail to demonstrate any honest insight into her criminal behavior. Even after her convictions, she continues to fabricate new versions of the events under which the crimes occurred. Diane alternately refers to her attacker as bushy-haired stranger, 2 men wearing ski masks, or drug dealers. I guess she can't keep her story straight, but it's just insane that she continues to lie. Literally, nobody believes her. Nobody. No one. Zilch. 10 more years. Downs participated in the hearing. She was not allowed to give a statement, but she answered some questions from the parole board. After 3 hours of interviews and a half hour of deliberation, Diane 65-year-old dies in there. Diane's fourth child, Becky, appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2010 and shared her heartbreaking story. She also did an interview with 2020 detailing her life's downward spiral after she found out who her birth mother is. True crime author Anne Rule, known for her book The Stranger Beside Me, which is about Ted Bundy. I have not read this one yet. She wrote Small Sacrifices in 1987, a story detailing the life of Diane Downs. Small Sacrifices was turned into a made-for-TV movie in 1989 with Farrah Fawcett starring as Downs. I have also not seen this movie. I've tried to find it. With no luck, I may try again today because it's been a while since I've tried. Anne Rule and Diane Downs appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show. People continue to be shocked by this unbelievable story. Diane still maintains her innocence despite the clear evidence that she's lying. It seems like the pathological liar may actually believe her false stories. As for Becky, she grew up in a happy home, but the crimes of her mother still haunted her. When she was about 11, Becky tricked the babysitter into telling her the name of her biological mother, Diane Downs. This life-changing revelation took Becky on her own crazy journey. She now says, "The impact of Diane Downs being my mom has altered the course of my life in so many ways, but I'm on track and I'm really happy with the way it is. It's nice to know that she's doing really well now." Growing up, Becky's adoptive mother, Jackie Babcock, tried to calm her daughter's curiosity about her adoption, so she gave her little bits of information. However, the question kept coming. Eventually, Jackie stopped answering her questions, knowing the truth would be too much for the little kid to handle. But Becky said that before the answers stopped, Jackie told her that there was a book written about her biological mother. Days after, she secretly got the name from the babysitter, and Becky headed to the bookstore, as I would do if that were me. Becky didn't know what to expect when she opened the book. She explained that she looked at the pictures. I saw who she was and what she looked like, but it didn't satisfy her. It wasn't a face I wanted to see. Just the cold look in her eyes scared me. Melody set in. That's who gave birth to me. I slammed the book shut and left. Becky said that she didn't tell her parents that she had discovered the secret. Over the years, she heard a few more details about her biological mother, but it wasn't until she was 16 that it really affected her. The teenager was at her boyfriend's house, and the pair decided to watch a 2-part miniseries based on the book. She said that she told him a few things about her mother, and without Becky's knowledge, he decided to rent the tape. What an asswipe. Becky explained that watching the movie broke her heart, and her life went into a downward spiral. She said, "It was gut-wrenching, and it changed me. My innocence was completely gone." Becky explained that she started taking drugs and dropped out of school like her birth mother. Becky began dating multiple men and got pregnant as a teen. She also told 2020 that her relationship with her adopted mother started to deteriorate during that time. It was very scary to have any relations to that woman. That's what really scared me, to feel any sort of connection to that monster. A part of me was afraid that's where I came from. Does that mean where I'm going? Becky made a tough but wise decision to give the second child up for adoption. Becky explained that giving up that baby for adoption made her decide to reach out to Diane in jail. They went to go on to exchange several letters, but then Becky said they kept getting stranger. That's when I completely regretted messaging. I had to accept that she really does struggle mentally. She really did have something wrong with her, and it doesn't mean that I do too. After her arrest, Diane still wanted the spotlight on her. She appeared on Oprah via satellite from jail. Anne Rule, author of Small Sacrifices, was there with Oprah, and let's just say Diane wasn't very happy with the book and how she was portrayed with it or in it. Even after her conviction, Diane continued to deny the truth She maintains this bushy-haired man's story asked Diane all the tough questions that she didn't answer. She even called Diane out for telling the tragic story, as if she were talking about a trip to the state fair. The interview goes on with Diane bashing Anne Rule for her book, yet everything the prisoner said made absolutely no sense. She went on and on and on and on and on and on and on about how someone else did this to her children. Nobody believed a word of it, especially Oprah. And when the talk show host asked Diane why her own daughter Christy would say her mother did this, Diane had another excuse, speaking straight from her ass. She says and explains how the police coerced the young girl into testifying against her mother. According to Diane, Christy wanted to see her mom so badly, and the police told her the only way she'd see her is if she told them what they wanted to hear. This is not what happened at all. Oprah went on to ask Diane about jailbreak, and I'm sure you're wondering where she was for 10 days. As it turns out, Diane went to her cellmate's husband's house. She claims the reason she left was to find the man who really did this to her children. But as you might have guessed, Oprah didn't buy it. Anne Rule explained how she thinks Diane did this because she saw children as replaceable, and that's why she had an obsession with getting pregnant. Diane actually laughed and denied all those allegations. So Oprah asked why she got pregnant during her trial. Clearly wasn't a good time to have another baby, considering she was facing a lot of jail time. This wasn't an accidental pregnancy. Diane told Oprah that she loved kids, and at the time, she felt so alone. She wanted someone to love, and someone to love her, which was incredibly selfish. She sounds honestly like the other mother. She just wants to eat souls up. Luckily, they got the child out of there, and Becky has a beautiful life, and despite the lingering effects her mother's actions took an emotional toll on the young girl. Oprah concluded the interview by telling Diane that she looks like the girl next door, except she is a really bad person. Oprah called her out on her shit and called her out for sleeping around like she did because she and cheating on her husband, putting men before her children because she's a hoe, and then sleeping with her own cellmate's husband because she's a hoe. And Diane's defense was that they were going to get divorced and hadn't seen or slept with each other in years. Bitch, she's in jail. Oprah basically told her that it didn't make it any better because, bitch. Diane's response to Oprah was, well, the girls next door does exactly what I did. Does that mean they sleep around? Or that they try to kill their own children? And that, guys, is the story of the worst mother who ever lived, Diane Downs. Comment down below your thoughts. I would love to hear them. If you ever just want to write me up something to read, again, email this email, which is also available in the description below.